Hello, my name is Eloiza Kohlbeck. I'm a student at the State University of Santa Catarina, Brazil, and I will be presenting the work entitled Minimizing Barriers in the Implementation of Product Service System throughout the Circular Economy. And here is a summary of all the sections that will be presented from the introduction to the references. So, the introduction section. The research problem is that companies have been facing several difficulties to develop and implement business proposals classified as product service systems, which is a proposal based on servitization and that values the balance between environmental, social, and economic aspects. The justification for the work is the need to develop a holistic perspective of the entire life cycle of a product service system, acting with strategic planning and avoiding the occurrence of process failures. In view of this, the aim of this work is identify the barriers in the implementation of a product service system and present facilitators and guidelines based on literature of circular economy in order to mitigate the barriers pointed out. So this research was carried out in 3 stages. First, a systematic literature review was conducted and 81 papers were analyzed with the aim of tracing the barriers in the development of a product service system. Next, a second stage of systematic literature review was conducted with the goal of identifying facilitators, methods, and tools to mitigate the barriers pointed out by the literature. Finally, all this bibliographic data was organized, a conceptual development stage was carried out, and these guidelines were constructed and a framework was developed to minimize the barriers in the development of a product service system. Now in the results and discussion section, first the barriers of a PSS were traced and these were classified according to the dimensions of provider, offer, and consumer. Then the barriers of a provider were identified, such as lack of strategic alignment, financial uncertainty, organizational inertia, reluctance for change, and a higher difficulty to monitor PSS proposals. For the offer dimension, the barriers identified were low product and/or system reliability and business proposals not adaptable to the PSS. And for the consumer dimension, we have the barrier emotional connection with the products because the PSS business proposals are based on dismaterialization and many consumers have the need to have the ownership of the product. To minimize these barriers, facilitators, methods, and tools were identified, and guidelines were constructed, B1 to B6, which were classified according to the stages of beginning of life, middle of life, and end of life. Figure 1 presents the framework for the beginning of life stage, where the business proposal is being developed, requiring methods and tools for strategic planning, such as exploratory research, for proposal modeling, such as system map, and for identification of failures, such as FMEA. And to analyze the applicability of the proposal, it was applied to a case study by sharing. And figure 2 shows the application of the system map 2, which describes all the process to business proposal operation. Next, we have the middle of life stage, where the PSS proposal is being offered to the consumer. As in the previous stage, facilitators, methods, and tools were identified and guidelines were constructed, such as sustainable design, servitization, sharing economy, among others. In Figure 4, we have the application of a tool, Product Service Blueprint, in the bike sharing case, describing the interaction between products, services, the stakeholders, and the infrastructure necessary to develop of a PSS. Finally, a framework was developed for the end-of-life stage, where facilitators, methods, and tools were proposed. In this stage, the stakeholder most involved is the consumer, where it is necessary to promote a change of habits and an awareness of sustainable development. It is also important that the consumer demonstrate his degree of satisfaction with the business proposal, where we highlight the importance of answering questionnaires, as shown in Figure 6, which allow the provider to identify points of improvement in the proposal. In the conclusion section, it is highlighted that the originality and value of the work is the development of the framework for the beginning of life, middle of life, and end of life stages, as it contributes to the circularity of the business proposals and makes it possible to act in a corrective way in the face of barriers that have already occurred, and preventive way by using the methods, tools, and guidelines to avoid the appearance of barriers. Finally, we emphasize that future studies may systematize the framework, increasing its visibility and dissemination. It is also possible to apply it to other cases besides the bike sharing, checking whether the framework is generic. Here are some references used in the work. And I conclude by thanking you for your attention and making myself available for you to contact me through the email address provided. And once again, thank you.